The day my brother's new wife, Shelby, joined the family, he gave us a pair of expensive jade bracelets to help us get along. I immediately reached out, took one, and slipped it on my wrist as Shelby watched with anticipation. But after they left, I snuck into their room and glued the bracelet to the underside of my brother's bed. I did this because I've been reborn. In my last life, I felt sorry for Shelby and the tough life she'd had. I not only accepted the bracelet with a smile, but also went out of my way to help her fit in with our family. With my help, Shelby's relationships with everyone improved. She even successfully opened a shop and was praised for her business savvy. Meanwhile, my life became a series of disasters. The shops I opened all failed one after another, and then I got into a severe car accident. As I lay dying, I heard Shelby crying, blaming herself to my brother. "Connor, it's all my fault. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have had to watch Riley suffer like this." My brother comforted her in a low voice. "Shelby, even though swapping their fortunes was my idea, I'm sure Riley would have wanted this. You're her sister-in-law. She's had so many happy years, it's only right she gives you a chance at happiness." As they consoled each other, I finally understood. My brother, feeling sorry for Shelby's cursed life, had used the jade bracelets to switch my good fortune to hers. I couldn't rest in peace. Now, given a second chance, I will make my vicious brother and his wife reap what they sow. "Riley, come see if you like these jade bracelets." My brother, Connor, opened the box in his hands, revealing a pair of brilliant, beautiful jade bracelets. I snapped back to the present, stunned to see the familiar jewelry in front of me. Isn't this the day Connor gave me the bracelet? Have I been reborn? Before I could process it, Connor spoke again. "Riley, what's wrong? Didn't you sleep well last night?" I looked up instinctively. Connor was looking at me with a concerned expression, but deep in his eyes, I could see a flicker of anxiety, a fear that I might discover something. My sister-in-law, Shelby, standing beside him, had the same look. I silently clenched the hem of my shirt, my heart filled with a cold hatred. The signs were there all along. I was just too trusting to see their cruelty. In my last life, after Connor and Shelby started dating, he constantly told me how pitiful she was. Right before their wedding, he even sighed and told me, "Your sister-in-law just has a hard life. She wasn't born into a good family, so she's had to endure so much." Every time I see people giving her a hard time or bullying her, it breaks my heart and makes me so angry. It was just me and Connor growing up, and our parents doted on us. We'd always been close. So when he told me this, I replied, "It's okay, bro. You and Shelby are about to get married. From now on, just do everything you can to make her happy and help her forget all the bad stuff." Connor stared at me for a couple of seconds, then smiled. "Oh, I'll definitely do everything in my power to make her happy." I thought he meant he would work hard to give Shelby a happy life. I never imagined his plan involved me. To change his wife's fate, he got his hands on a pair of strange jade bracelets to swap my good fortune to hers. I forced myself to calm down and managed a smile. "Yeah, I didn't sleep great. I was probably just too excited that you finally got to marry Shelby." I lowered my head, pretending to examine the bracelets with a satisfied look. "These are beautiful. Are they for me?" Hearing my words, a flash of guilt crossed Connor's eyes, but he still pushed the box toward me. "That's right. One is for you, and the other is for your sister-in-law. Now that she's part of the family, I just hope you two can get along." He sounded so sincere, as if that was all he really wanted. Remembering my past life, I smiled and took the box. "Don't worry, bro. I'll definitely help Shelby feel at home here." Seeing me happily accept the box, the tension in Connor's face finally eased. He smiled and handed the other bracelet to Shelby. Shelby excitedly slipped it on in front of me, then looked at me with an expectant gaze. In my past life, seeing that look, I naively thought she was just eager to become close with me. Only now did I understand she was just trying to get me to put on the bracelet, so she could steal my life. I played along and put the bracelet on. Shelby's eyes instantly lit up. She stepped forward and took my hand. "Riley, that bracelet looks so beautiful on you. I hear wearing good jade for a long time is really good for your health." Connor chuckled. "Well, then you two had better wear them every day." Shelby smiled, tucking a stray strand of hair behind her ear, her face full of adoration. This is the first gift you've given me since we got married. I'll definitely wear it every day. And I'm sure Riley will too, right? Seeing how desperate she was for my promise, I knew I had guessed right. The fortune swapping wasn't instantaneous. It required time. I didn't know how long, but at least I knew that wearing it for a little while wouldn't do any real harm. I smiled and nodded. Of course. Connor studied my expression and finally seemed to relax completely. With the plan in motion, Shelby was thrilled. She couldn't wait to say, "Riley, your brother has to work this afternoon. Why don't you come out shopping with me for a bit?" Her eyes were shining, but I gently pushed her hand away and said apologetically, "I'm sorry, Shelby. I'm just so exhausted. I really need to go back to my room and catch up on some sleep." Shelby's brow furrowed instantly, and she started to say, "But..." Connor quickly grabbed her arm, cutting her off. "I know you want to get along with Riley, but there's no need to rush. Let her get some rest first." Shelby's face paled slightly as she realized she had been too eager. She forced a smile at me and apologized. "You're right, that was thoughtless of me. You go get some rest." I nodded and turned to go upstairs. With my back to them, my eyes turned ice cold. I knew why Shelby was in such a hurry to take me out. She's always been unluckier than most people, choking on water, catching a cold from a slight breeze. Now that I was wearing this bracelet, if we went out and ran into any trouble, I would be the one to suffer. I locked my door and went straight to the window. It was cracked open just enough that I could hear their conversation if I listened carefully. "Honey, when will I finally be free of this bad luck? If this bad luck sticks with me, what about our future kids?" Shelby's voice was soft and pitiful, trembling with tears by the end. "Shelby, don't be silly. As long as I'm here, you'll be safe and sound from now on. When Riley was little, Mom and Dad had her fortune told. She has a rare kind of good luck, not just with money, but with her health too. Just do what the master said. Keep wearing the bracelet, and soon enough, her good fortune will be yours." Connor's voice was full of sympathy, and he said it without a hint of hesitation, as if the person whose life was being stolen wasn't his own sister. Even though I knew he was cruel enough to sacrifice anything for his wife, in that moment, my heart still ached. It was just the two of us kids in our family, and we were always so close. Every time I got into trouble, Connor would jump in and take the blame, accepting the punishment alone. And I would share any treats or new toys I got with him. I never thought the brother who was once so good to me would one day harm me for someone else. Clenching my fists, I fought back the nausea and kept listening. Shelby was deeply moved, her tears turning into a smile. "Honey, the only lucky thing that ever happened to me was meeting you. You once told me you'd always put me first and give me all the best things. You really meant it. Silly, you're my wife. Who else would I treat this well?" Connor's tone was doting. They went on like that for a while, but they never mentioned how long it would take to transfer my good fortune to Shelby. Just as I was getting anxious, Shelby's phone rang. I couldn't hear what the person on the other end said, but after she hung up, she told Connor, "The thing I ordered is ready. They said I can pick it up this afternoon." "Honey, Riley and I just put these bracelets on. I still feel a little nervous. I want her to come with me." Sensing her unease, Connor's heart ached for her. "Then wake her up this afternoon and have her go with you. That way, if anything dangerous happens, she can shield you from it." My eyes went cold. This afternoon was the first time the bracelet caused me to get hurt. I remembered it clearly. While I was with Shelby picking up her package, a flower pot fell and smashed into my head, sending me to the hospital. I looked down, lost in thought for a moment. Pretending I hadn't heard anything, I readily agreed when Shelby came to my room later that afternoon to ask me to go out. Shelby was ecstatic. She dressed up beautifully and looped her arm through mine as we headed out. "Riley, I feel so bad dragging you out when you didn't get enough sleep last night. How about this? If you see a purse you like later, I'll buy it for you. It's on your brother's dime anyway." Her smile was gentle, and I held her gaze for a couple of seconds. If I hadn't died once before, who would have ever guessed that such a kind face hid such a venomous soul? I chuckled. "Sure. I've been running around helping out with everything these past few days. My brother owes me, so you can make it up to me on his behalf." As soon as I said it, The gentle smile on Shelby's face froze, her eyes wide with disbelief. Seeing her reaction, I deliberately asked, "What's with that look, Shelby? Are you having second thoughts?" "What? Of course not. Riley, you really have worked hard these past few days," Shelby said with a strained smile. "Your brother's been busy with work. It's only right for me as his wife to make it up to you for him." She said the words, but her eyes were filled with resentment. I knew, of course, that she was just saying it to be polite and never actually intended to spend any money on me. After all, from the moment she started dating Connor, she hadn't paid for a single thing herself. When she went out with Connor, he covered all the expenses. When she went shopping with me, I followed Connor's instructions to never mention money in front of her and always paid for everything myself. Whenever Shelby felt bad about it, she'd offer to treat me to a meal next time as thanks. But Connor was always telling me how poor her family was and that she had no money, so I should never let her pay for anything, not even as a thank you. So every time Shelby promised to treat me, I still ended up paying. Over the years, she had gotten used to it. She probably never expected me to take her polite offer seriously. Suppressing my disgust, I tightened my grip on her arm and pulled her toward the mall. Shelby's body was stiff, and she bit her lip, forcing down her annoyance. I browsed the designer boutiques, pointed out several bags, and told her with a beaming smile to pay up. When Shelby realized I was serious, a flash of anger crossed her eyes. Finally, she gritted her teeth and pulled out the supplementary card Connor had given her to pay for them. Standing behind her, I smirked, my eyes full of scorn. In my last life, that couple took advantage of me countless times. Even the assets I left behind after I died were transferred to Shelby's name by my brother to show his devotion. After years of being disgusted by them, I was going to get it all back, bit by bit. I walked out with several shopping bags in hand, while Shelby was so heartbroken she couldn't even manage a smile. Terrified I might pick out something else for her to buy, she quickly pulled me out of the mall. "Riley, the time I agreed on with the seller is almost here. We should hurry." I thought for a moment, then smiled and said I was fine with whatever she wanted. The pickup location was the same as in my last life. A busy street with a bunch of food stalls near the mall. Last time, this was where I got hit. As we got closer, Shelby's expression grew more excited. She grabbed my hand and urged me to hurry, unwilling to even wait for the last few seconds of the red light. "Shelby, it's a red light. Let's just wait," I said, pretending to be cautious. Shelby looked across the street expectantly and replied without hesitation, "Don't worry. There are hardly any cars on this road. We'll be fine." She pulled me into the street. Recalling her confident words, a deeper chill settled in my heart. In the past, whenever we went out together, she was always so careful, afraid of getting bumped or hurt. But now, wearing the bracelet that could steal my good fortune, she was reckless, completely indifferent to what would happen to me after my luck was gone. A cold smile touched my lips. I glanced down at the gleaming jade bracelet on my wrist, a ruthless glint in my eyes. "Your bad luck is your own. You can have it back." As Shelby dragged me forward, just as we reached the middle of the road, a car suddenly came tearing toward us. It was moving incredibly fast, swerving from side to side. The driver saw us and screamed, his eyes wide. "Get out of the way." The brakes failed. Shelby froze in terror, her face ashen, her hand still gripping my arm like a vice. I didn't panic. I just stood there with her. Just as the car was about to hit us, Shelby snapped out of it. Probably in too much of a panic to keep up her act. She shoved me hard, trying to use me as a shield. But at that exact moment, the driver yanked the steering wheel, changing direction. I was thrown to the ground, but aside from a scraped arm, I was fine. Shelby, however, who had frantically pushed me toward the car, was the one who got hit. She collapsed on the ground, her leg a mess of blood. Riley, help me. Call an ambulance." Her face was pale, and she couldn't move. A crowd quickly gathered, some gawking, others taking pictures. I didn't want to help her just yet. After all, the malicious woman had just tried to use me to save her own skin. "Shelby, oh my God, Shelby." I pretended to be in shock, taking a few seconds to react. I struggled up from the ground and scrambled over to her, staring helplessly at her wounds. There's so much blood. What do we do? Shelby looked at her mangled leg, her lips white with fear, and snapped at me impatiently. Are you stupid? I told you to call an ambulance. Seeing that she had bled a sufficient amount, I fumbled for my phone as if just remembering and called for help. When my brother arrived at the hospital and saw Shelby lying in the bed, he turned on me furiously. Riley, you went out with your sister-in-law. Why didn't you look after her? You know her health has never been good. Lying in the hospital bed, Shelby's eyes were red as she listened to Connor berate me. She didn't mention that she was the one who had jaywalked, instead looking like the innocent victim I had dragged into trouble. The smile faded from my face. Connor, she was with me, but she's the one who pulled me into the street against a red light. This isn't my fault. Connor froze, then frowned. Even so, you should have stopped her. Before he could finish, Shelby raised a hand and tugged on his sleeve. Her voice choked with tears as she blamed herself. Honey, don't blame Riley. It really was my fault today. I was in too much of a hurry. I saw there weren't any cars and just wanted to cross quickly. I never expected a car to come out of nowhere. She sounded so pathetic that Connor's heart immediately went out to her. He comforted her right in front of me before angrily dragging me out of the room. Riley, when did you become so inconsiderate? Yes, your sister-in-law made a mistake today, but she's the one who got hurt. She's already upset. So did you have to say that to her face? What have I told you before? Your sister-in-law grew up poor and has never had an easy day in her life. As her family, we should be as patient and caring as we possibly can. Halfway through his lecture, I couldn't help but scoff. Connor, you're the one who married her. You can treat her however you want. Why are you telling me all this? Anyone who didn't know better would think I was the one who married her. Connor was stunned. He stared at me in disbelief, a confused look in his eyes. How can you say that? Riley, you've been acting so strange ever since I saw you. What's wrong with you? He sounded genuinely perplexed, but there was also a flash of panic in his eyes, as if he was afraid I'd figured something out. His gaze flicked to my wrist. Seeing the familiar jade bracelet, his expression relaxed slightly. I sneered internally, but my face remained cold. Why don't you ask Shelby yourself? I'm going to get some food. With that, I brushed past his shoulder and went downstairs. 2 minutes later, I was back outside the hospital room door. Connor was frowning, asking Shelby, honey, what's going on between you and Riley? She looks like she has a problem with you. Shelby hesitated for a moment before saying guiltily, I was in such a hurry. I accidentally pushed Riley down, and she almost got hit by the car. It was my fault. Connor let out a sigh of relief. I thought it was something serious. It was an accident. Why is she making such a big deal out of it? She's not a kid anymore. In such a dangerous situation, he never once considered the potential consequences of Shelby shoving me. He just complained that I was being petty. I just checked. The jade bracelet on her wrist is perfectly fine, so don't worry. Today was just the first day, so the bracelet hasn't had much effect yet. The master said that once she's worn it for 7 days, her good fortune will be completely transferred to you. Honey, just rest up in the hospital for the next couple of days. Don't go running around again. After a few more words of advice, the two of them were back to their lovey-dovey talk. Leaning against the wall, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. The whole reason I risked going out with Shelby today was to find out how the bracelet worked. Now that I knew, there was no reason to stay at the hospital and take care of her. Glancing at the bracelet on my wrist, I pulled out my phone and texted Connor that something had come up at one of my stores, then turned and left. If this bracelet was so powerful that it could swap someone's fortune in just 7 days, then let it swap Connor's good fortune to Shelby. They were a married couple, and Connor loved her so deeply. He would surely be willing to give her his good fortune. I rushed home. An employee from one of my jewelry stores arrived shortly after, having received my message. Ma'am, here's the bracelet you asked for. Take a look. I opened the box and examined it carefully. The jade bracelet glowed with a green light, very similar to the one Connor had given me. As long as you didn't look too closely, you couldn't tell the difference. The bracelet is perfect. I'll give you a raise. And remember, don't tell anyone about this. I smiled as I gave my instructions. The employee's eyes lit up. and she promised to keep her lips sealed. After she left, I took off the bracelet I'd painstakingly dug out of a drawer in my room and put on the replica. As soon as I heard Shelby wanted me to go out with her that morning, I started rummaging through my old jewelry boxes. After comparing them one by one, I actually found one that looked almost identical to the bracelet from Connor. If I hadn't swapped them out beforehand, I would be the one lying in that hospital bed right now. Back in my room, I took out the real bracelet from Connor. Without a second thought, I went to his and Shelby's bedroom and stuck it firmly to the underside of his side of the bed. That morning, I had already contacted a well-known psychic. He told me that objects designed to swap a person's luck are inherently malevolent, and using them to harm others is a truly evil act. If I wanted the person who harmed me to suffer a backlash, I should place it as close to them as possible, somewhere they would be in contact with it every day. I thought about it carefully. There was no place more suitable than under their bed. In my last life, Connor was so eager for Shelby to shed her bad luck that he postponed their honeymoon until the end of the year. After I put on the bracelet, he kept finding excuses for me to go out shopping with Shelby, terrified that he wouldn't be able to steal my good fortune. I remembered that for the next 2 weeks, he and Shelby would be staying at home, which was just enough time to transfer his good fortune to her. A cynical smile played on my lips as I left their room. That night, Connor came home alone. When he saw me, his eyes instinctively darted to my wrist. After confirming the bracelet was still there, he relaxed and said, "Riley, your sister-in-law told me what happened. It was wrong of her to push you, but she was just scared. It was an instinct to want someone to protect her. You know, no one ever really cared about her when she was growing up. She's timid, so deep down she craves having someone to shield her when danger strikes. Anyway, don't hold it against her. You weren't hurt, so let's just let it go." He so casually dismissed the whole thing that I finally snapped. "What do you mean I wasn't hurt? Connor, are you saying only your wife's life matters? You don't give a damn whether I live or die?" I confronted him head-on. Connor frowned, his tone laced with impatience. "I just said you weren't hurt, so you shouldn't hold a grudge against your sister-in-law. Why are you overthinking things?" He rubbed his temples, his voice full of disappointment. "I thought that as a woman, you'd be able to empathize with how hard she's had it. But you forget it. Just pretend I didn't say anything." I stared at his face, searching for any crack in his performance, but Connor's act was flawless. If I hadn't already been killed by them once, his words would have made me question myself, maybe even feel guilty. I might have even gone to the hospital to make peace with Shelby. I let out a derisive laugh. "Yeah, right. I was born lucky, getting whatever I wanted my whole life. Of course I can't empathize with a sister-in-law who shoves me in front of a car to save her own skin." Connor seemed surprised by my response. A flicker of shock crossed his eyes, quickly replaced by anger. "Riley, I already told you she didn't do it on purpose. What will it take for you to drop this? Does she have to get on her knees and beg you?" Seeing his anger, I stopped arguing and reached for the bracelet on my wrist. "She doesn't have to beg. I'll just give the bracelet back to you. And from now on, we'll just be strangers living under the same roof." "No, don't take it off." Connor panicked, reaching out to stop me. I glared at him. "Why are you stopping me?" Connor's anger instantly vanished, and his tone softened considerably. "Riley, you can't take your anger out on the bracelet. It took me forever to find this pair. It cost me," he paused, "this much. When I bought them, I was just thinking about you and your sister-in-law getting along. If you smash it in a fit of anger, how are you two ever going to make up?" He held up 7 fingers. A cold smile curled my lips. 7 figures to buy a pair of bracelets to steal my good fortune. Wow, Connor, your love for Shelby is truly deep. I suppressed the rage boiling inside me and couldn't help but wonder, what would Connor's expression be when he found out I'd swapped his good fortune over to Shelby? He'd probably be thrilled. With that thought, I composed myself, my expression still cold. "What? It's okay for Shelby to push me as a human shield because she was scared, but it's not okay for me to smash a bracelet in a fit of anger to vent?" Connor's face darkened, but he forced a smile. "Riley, that's not what I meant. It's just that your sister-in-law, He instinctively started to play the victim card for his wife, but he caught himself. Probably remembering my icy attitude from before, he gritted his teeth and changed his tune. Your sister-in-law is still in the hospital. As soon as she's discharged, I'll make sure she gives you a sincere apology. I didn't say yes or no. I just gave him a long, deep look, then turned and went upstairs. Connor ran a hand through his hair in frustration. After sending a quick text to his wife, he headed upstairs, planning to get to bed early so he'd have the energy to be with her the next day. Shelby spent 2 days in the hospital before being discharged to recover at home. Lying in bed, she apologized to me with tears streaming down her face. Riley, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Please don't be mad at me. Connor, standing beside her with dark circles under his eyes, spoke up on her behalf, frowning. See, your sister-in-law has apologized. Just be the bigger person and let it go. I glanced at the exhaustion on his face and chuckled softly. Fine. Since Shelby has apologized, let's just put this behind us. Connor let out a visible sigh of relief. Shelby wiped away her tears, glanced at the bracelet on my wrist, and forced a smile. Riley, I knew you were generous. I looked down at my phone, my tone neutral. Something just came up at my shop. I have to go. After making an excuse to leave their bedroom, I didn't leave right away. Instead, I stood by the door, listening carefully. About 2 minutes passed before I heard them start talking. From the way Riley was acting, it seems like she hasn't forgiven me yet, Shelby said, her voice filled with grievance. Connor's tone was weary and cold. Don't worry about her. As long as she said she forgives you and won't try to smash the bracelet, it's fine. Honey, the master said that once the bracelet has been worn for more than 3 days, it locks onto her, and we can slowly start draining her good fortune. Today is the 3rd day. After tonight, your bad luck will be gone. As he said this, his voice was filled with excitement and joy. Connor was so focused on transferring my good fortune to Shelby that he hadn't noticed anything unusual about himself. I smirked, tiptoed away, and waited to see what would happen to Connor once his own good fortune was drained away. I didn't have to wait long. The next morning at the breakfast table, Connor got a call. A major project he was in charge of had run into a serious problem, and he was being held fully responsible. Connor's face turned pale. He tried desperately to explain himself over the phone, but it was useless. Shelby looked worried. How could something suddenly go wrong like that? How should I know? Connor snapped, his tone sharp with frustration now that it was his career on the line. Ever since they started dating, Connor had always spoken to Shelby in a soft, gentle voice. This was the first time he had ever lost his temper with her. Shelby's eyes immediately welled up, and she looked at him with a hurt expression. I slowly sipped my congee, keeping an eye on both of them. In the past, Connor would have immediately apologized and dropped everything to comfort her. But the project that had gone wrong was the first major one he had ever managed, and it was crucial for his chances of promotion. With such a huge project in jeopardy, he had no time to coddle his wife. He didn't even look at her. He just rushed out the door, still on the phone. For the next 2 days, Connor came home late at night and left again first thing in the morning. Despite his efforts, the project couldn't be saved. He came home completely dejected, looking like his soul had left his body. Shelby rushed over to him, worried. Honey, what's wrong? Don't scare me, say something. Honey, my project is dead, Connor said, his eyes vacant. Shelby comforted him tenderly. It's okay, honey. It was just bad luck this time. I know you'll succeed next time. As she tried her best to console him, something in Connor seemed to snap. He violently pushed her away and yelled. I was watching that project every single day, and suddenly it all falls apart in the last 2 days. Did you infect me with your bad luck? Shelby stumbled and fell to the floor, staring at him with a hurt and bewildered expression. Connor, how could you say that to me? Her voice trembled, so heartbroken she couldn't even call him honey. I had been standing silently on the stairs, watching the drama unfold. I walked down, feigning disapproval. Connor, Shelby was just worried about you. How could you treat her like that? Shelby rubbed her red eyes, looking at Connor through a blur of tears. When Connor saw me, his gaze instinctively flicked to my wrist. Seeing the bracelet still there, much of his frustration seemed to dissipate. He calmed down, reached out to help Shelby up, and cooed softly, I'm sorry, honey. I shouldn't have taken it out on you. Shelby wasn't angry with him. She wiped her tears and hugged him, playing the part of the devoted, long-suffering wife. The scene was so nauseating I couldn't watch. I turned and went back upstairs. "Honey, don't worry. Everything will be better tomorrow." Shelby's comforting voice trailed after me. I paused for a second, my eyes growing cold. I knew why she said that. Tomorrow was the 7th day. After tonight, the fortune swapping would be complete. I woke up early the next morning, and Shelby was already urging me to get ready. "Riley, you've been so busy with me and your brother's affairs lately. You haven't had a chance to relax. Let's all go camping today." I stared at her, then asked casually, "My brother just had a major issue at work. Is this really a good time for him to take a day off?" Shelby's expression stiffened for a second before she smiled. "His company already approved it. They said he should take a couple of days to rest." I knew that was just a nice way of putting it. The truth was, Connor had screwed up and his boss was sick of him. In my last life, Connor's career had been smooth sailing, nothing like this had ever happened. I remembered that day. I had gone with Shelby to a spa. On our way out, I was hit by a car that had lost control. The hospital tried to save me for hours. Connor only showed up after they declared me dead, at which point he immediately started comforting a guilt-ridden Shelby. Shelby, even though swapping their fortunes was my idea, I'm sure Riley would have wanted this. You're her sister-in-law. She's had so many happy years, it's only right she gives you a chance at happiness. At that moment, I was already grieving my own tragic end. But hearing those words from my own brother, the person I trusted most, pushed me into absolute despair. The feeling of being stabbed in the back by the one person you trusted most, I can still feel it now. I stood up. If they were so eager to see my downfall, then today would be the day we settled things for good. I threw a few things in a bag, and Shelby enthusiastically pulled me downstairs. Connor's car was parked outside. He had a grim look on his face, clearly in a bad mood. But when he saw Shelby and me, he forced a smile. "Hurry up and get in. We'll hit traffic if we wait any longer." Shelby smiled and got into the passenger seat. I opened the back door and got in. I didn't say a word the whole way, just kept my head down, texting my employees and handling some business. Connor glanced at me in the rearview mirror, a slight frown on his face, and then he suddenly spoke. "Riley, do you remember how good Mom and Dad were to you when they were alive?" I sensed the malice in his tone and looked up calmly, saying nothing. The dark circles under Connor's eyes made him look terrible. He didn't wait for my answer, and just continued. "They would sneak you extra allowance, brag on their social feed whenever you won an award, and they both took you to your college orientation. I know they were so good to you because you were exceptional. You always got good grades and got into a better university than I ever could. Even though I'm your brother, sometimes I couldn't help but be jealous." As he spoke those last words, the jealousy in his eyes was no longer hidden. Shelby looked at him with concern but no surprise. It was as if she had known all along. My gaze remained calm. Since being reborn, I had considered many possibilities. Maybe Shelby was the one who came up with the idea, and Connor only went along with it for her. Maybe I was the only one who could wear the bracelet for the full 7 days, so he had no choice but to target me. It wasn't until yesterday, when Connor blew up at Shelby over his project, that I threw out all those theories. When you have eliminated all which is impossible, then whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. Connor was jealous of me, and he had been since we were kids. When our parents were alive, they favored me, the more successful child. After they passed, their assets were split evenly between us. I used my half to start a successful business and open several stores. Connor, on the other hand, lost all his money and only managed to keep the house our parents left us with my help. I thought we were each other's only family, that we should help each other through thick and thin. But all along, he was just jealous that I was doing better than him. So much so that he was willing to have me killed. I was silent for a long moment before I said coolly, "So, you were so jealous you wanted me dead, is that it?" As my response was far calmer than he expected, I calmly took off the bracelet. A flash of surprise crossed Connor's eyes, followed by a twisted, triumphant grin. "So you figured it out?" "Yes. Only when you're dead can I finally hold my head up high. Don't worry, Riley. Your big brother will visit your grave every year. At that moment, we were on the freeway. A car in the opposite lane lost control and came straight for us. The two cars collided. My pupils constricted. Our car spun several times before slamming into the guardrail. When the dizziness faded, I quickly checked myself. I was completely unharmed. Connor in the driver's seat wasn't so lucky. His face was covered in blood, and he stared in disbelief. How could this be? The master clearly said. He stopped, looked at Shelby, who only had a few scrapes, and then looked at me. He finally understood. You knew from the beginning. My bad luck these past few days. The other bracelet is in my bedroom, isn't it? His voice was weak, on the verge of unconsciousness from blood loss. I laughed softly. I could hardly just wait around to die, could I? With that, I prepared to get out of the car. Swapping fortunes is a dark art. The person whose good luck is stolen will suffer 100 times the bad luck in a short period. I needed to get out and get away from them as fast as possible. Connor obviously knew this too. His eyes were dark as he gritted his teeth and called out to me. Take your sister-in-law with you. This was my idea. Was it? I didn't want to save either of them. One was the family member who stabbed me in the back. The other was a willing beneficiary. Saving them would do me no good, and would only leave a sick feeling in my stomach. I got out of the car without a second thought, leaving them with one last sentence. Connor, you had a good life and you threw it all away on this. You can deal with the consequences yourself. It wasn't my fault our parents favored me. I worked hard to get into college, to build my business, to climb my way up step by step. I did nothing wrong. I gave everything to my future, and as for Connor, I shared my allowance with him. I tried to give him advice when his business ventures were going south. I helped him. I had done everything I could for him. Honey, don't scare me. Open your eyes and look at me. I'll stay with you. I'll always stay with you. Shelby's desperate cries faded as I walked away. The car suddenly burst into flames. A few minutes later, the ambulance arrived. I watched in silence, a heaviness in my chest, but I had foreseen this outcome. I couldn't change the jealousy in Connor's heart. For 7 straight days, he never once stopped trying to harm me. We were destined for this end. All I could do was compose myself and keep walking forward, alone.